So when we took out our first computers way back in 1977, there was a big hue and cry. Every union said that, hey, jobs are going to go away, computers are coming in. And I give that example because it's similar to what AI is doing today. Yes and no, but you'll have a lot more senior, more highly paid jobs. You'll have people who understand the domain, who can come in as consultants rather than just as...
The first place to start is, even if you don't know how to build in AI, you should at least know how to use AI.
At the CXO Cafe by Coding Ninjas 10X Club, we connect our learners with the greatest minds shaping India's technology. This wine corner of a session was exclusive for Coding Ninja learners, featuring an insightful exchange between Ankush Singla, the co-founder of Coding Ninjas, and Mr. Arjun Malhotra, co-founder of HCL, one of India's most influential tech visionaries. Our learners walked away with timeless lessons on entrepreneurship, strategic thinking, and how to lead innovation in India's tech ecosystem. Now, you get the chance to witness this extraordinary exchange and see what Coding Ninjas has to offer.
Right. But before we go there, would love to sort of hear from you a little bit on your journey of building HCL. Like, how did you sort of, I think you did one job before sort of starting HCL. So would love to sort of hear from you. How did you take that plunge? How did you decide to do it? And what was that journey like? So if you can give us a little bit of brief on that, that'll be amazing.
Yep. So I graduated from IIT Kharagpur in 1970 in electronics and electrical communication engineering. And like all my classmates, I was planning to go overseas and do my master's and PhD. And, I planned to work for NASA. I thought I was clear on what I wanted to do. Life never really works the way you want. So I decided to stay back, got a job with Delhi Cloth and General Mills Company Limited, DCM, as a senior management trainee. And, spent a year in training, and then they decided to get into electronics. Chips for calculators were just coming out at that time. And I must have been, if not the only, one of the few electronics engineers in the company. So I got called 1 year out of college by the executive director in charge of that division. And he said, you're either going to head R&D and production or sales and marketing. I thought 1 year out of college, that's really exciting, in a big company to be, even if for a small group. Yeah. And so I stayed back. They found someone from ITI, Indian Telephone Industries, for the technical part. And so I got into sales and marketing and, sold calculators. You got to remember in DCM, calculators, we were competing with mom and pop shops. Because you could buy chips, you could put them on a printed circuit board, add some keys in a cabinet, and you had a calculator. Now in DCM, we had a lot of overheads compared to these small, what you call assemblers in the PC language.
Sure.
So we decided that we would do R&D and add some value to the calculators, which worked out very well for us. So we had a very strong R&D. For example, for statistical people, we would add mean, median, regression analysis, stuff like that, and give keys for that, write it on EPROMs, and integrate them with the chipset. So we were able to charge a real premium, sell to people, statisticians who really didn't need just add, subtract, multiply, divide type of machine. And that then progressed into programmable calculators. And from there, we actually made a bit-sliced computer in the R&D. But India was a socialist country in those days. And we had an act called the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, which basically didn't let any large private sector company get into a new area.
Okay.
And, if you worked in a big company, you sort of realize that the legal department's job is to tell you how not to do things. They never tell you how to do things. And so what happened was DCM advice was not to get into computers. They would run foul of the Monopolies Act. And we were a 1.72 crore sort of entity in a 250 crore company. And so obviously I can see their point of view. They decided not to get into computers. microprocessors were just coming out. And really, IBM and ICL and ECIL, who were selling computers in India, were using very old technology. So 6 of us decided that, hey, we can go out and use microprocessors to make computers. And why don't we thought we knew the market, the customers. And so that's what we did. Complete bravado, no business plan, no money. But we thought technology would, change the face of the world. Yeah. And so we came out, and of course, that's a different story of what happened. Fortunately, Televista, that used to make televisions, they were also making calculators, and they couldn't sell them. So Ved Luthra, who was the founder, CEO, the managing director, he talked to us and said he'd give us 90-day credit if we sold his calculators. The way it worked was he would give us his cost of manufacturing, we would give him our sales cost, there'd be profit in the middle, we'd make a hundi, divide it half and half, make a hundi 90-day payable, and after 90 days, if I spent more or less or he spent more or less, we'd adjust it in the next hundi. That was the plan. So, that's how we got our funding. We basically had 90 days to collect the money, and we did quite well. We started in October 75, 15th October 75. And by January, we felt we had enough money to recruit some good R&D people and start developing our own computer. That's really what it was. We were a hardware company, basically, when we started. We chose the name Hindustan Computers Limited because we thought people would buy computers from a solid-looking company, not any other name.
Sure.
And that's how the name HCL came about. People recognized the brand. We decided we might as well just make the brand the company, so to say.
Sure. Oh, that's amazing. I think nowadays when you hear somebody wanting to start a company, I think the biggest concern that they have is, will we be able to raise funds? Funding nahi mili to then we'll not be able to do anything. And what you just told us that you found a way to sort of do something that you were doing earlier and use that money to sort of do what you really wanted to do, right? Just a quick sort of brief that I'll give. For example, in our case, when we started Coding Ninjas, we actually started an offline center to fund for the development of the online product that we actually wanted to build. So we were like that, let's start teaching offline, we'll start making some money and we'll use that money to sort of fund whatever product we want to build. So yeah, so can really relate with what you were sort of saying and what your journey has been. Yeah, that's amazing, sir. So on specifically on this topic, right? I hear nowadays, I think this was definitely the case a couple of years ago. Now I think it's getting a little more rationalized. People said that should they start a company? I think any bear market, people sort of feel that maybe they should not. Any bull market, they feel like everybody should start a company. So personally, I sort of feel that starting a company is something that you should do when you are absolutely sure you can't do a job, and that's the only way you will be able to survive, and that's how you can sort of live with doing some work and be productive. I would love to sort of hear your thought, how I'm sure a lot of these people, really, really smart people that we have in the audience, a lot of them are thinking of that, should I start a company, should I join a company, do a job, and they are really torn between both these areas, right? Everything has the plus and minus. So would love to hear your thought on this, how should they decide whether they should start a company or join one?
Yeah, so one thing about knowing the market, when you're a student, you're actually living in a bubble of some kind. You really don't know what the real world is like. So my recommendation is always work for a short while, work in a company, try and learn about things. Don't get into a silo and just stick in it. If you're programming, you just sit in the programming thing. Find out what, talk to people in different departments, find out what's going on. Understand the world. I mean, one of the things I would say about India is people still take a long time to pay you for any services or product that you deliver.
Yeah.
So, while you think I build, my P&L looks good, but your cash flow may not look that good. And, ultimately in a startup, cash is king. P&L and all has little meaning. I mean, those are for the accountants. you got to keep your head down and make sure that you're cash positive or you're controlling your cash. So my recommendation is work for a while, understand the market you're in. Also, what does happen is you obviously in a particular segment or a particular telecom or in some area, try and look for something in that area. And, how do I put it? Have a passion for what you're doing. Try and change the world or whatever. Don't do it because, hey, I want to make some money. Because that never, ever, in my view, works out that way. I mean, you create something, you change the world, you make a difference. The wealth will come automatically. And even if it doesn't come in a big amount, the satisfaction is there. And ultimately, that's I think the biggest wealth you can get is that you enjoying what you're doing. You don't really go to work to earn money. You go to work to have fun.
Yeah.
And, that's really what what I would suggest your attitude should be. Again, try and find hardly anyone ever does anything alone. I mean, the press likes to project a company connected to one individual, but it's never an individual. It's always a team. And when you start, it's very important to get the right people into your team. So try and look for people first thing is I ask people to look for people who are smarter than you, and take it from me, they are out there. And if you find them, listen to them, make sure the chemistry works, and try and ask yourself that if things go downhill, is this the kind of person I can depend on or would be with me when, because things are never always good, even if you're doing really well. There'll always be some unknown hiccups that are going to come and seem like the end of the world is around the corner, and you've got to navigate that. So startups are a lot of fun. It's like a nasha, if I use that word. Once you get into it, it's very difficult to get out of there, right? Even if you get battered and don't do well and have to close down whatever you started. But it's a lot of fun. It's like if you're a mountaineer climbing a peak, when you get to the top, there's a satisfaction that, I don't know, it's difficult to describe. Startups are like that. If they work, they give you a lot of pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I can feel like, it feels like that I am like you, the words are so common, like when I'm giving some gyan to people, right? Like, so personally, I'll just quickly give you my story a little bit. So I was working at Facebook in the US in 2012 when I sort of felt that this is not something that I can do for a long period. I need to start a company and I want to do something in education. I decided I'll come back to India for a couple of years. कुछ नहीं चलेगा तो वापस जाके we'll take a job back, like, but let's try for a couple of years. For 4 years nothing worked out. I tried 3 or 4 different companies and I kept telling myself, yeah, this is so much fun, I want to give it one more shot. And because I was just not able to quit because that would have meant that I need to go back to job and do that for the rest of my life, and so that just kept pushing me that I'll try one more time, and luckily it sort of worked out since then. So we have been doing Coding Ninjas from last 9-10 years now. Yeah. Perfect, sir. So I absolutely agree, and I hope a lot of people here anybody who sort of feels like that this is the only way for them to survive, this is something that they're really passionate about and they really want to do something about it, I think that's the only way to survive. And as you said, right, like I think the expected amount of money you will make in a job is always more than what you will make as a founder. Some founders make a lot of money, but a lot of founders lose a lot of money just by opportunity cost. Perfect, sir. So, like now jumping to the current sort of world where we live in, and what AI is doing to this world right now, especially from jobs point of view. So, would love to hear your thoughts on where the IT industry is going from jobs point of view. I have to answer this question every second day from a lot of these students asking me. I'm sure they will really value this coming out from you. Like, what do you think? Like, so I'm not asking like what these people should do to sort of navigate, but I'm asking you is like, what do you see is going to happen, right? Like, I think we are used to a country where close to 2.5 lakh, 2.7 lakh, 5 lakh people go into IT companies as freshers coming out of college. Sadly, most of these people earn very little salary. They don't have practically any significant skills from the college they have come out of. where do you think, like, will this trend change over the next 2-3 years, and like, what do you see happening?
So, what's happening today is most of the large companies run what I call finishing schools before they recruit people from those colleges, right? So, what you're doing is you're really running them through 3 months or 6 months of orientation stroke training to get them job worthy, if I use that term. Right. So let me go back to when computers first came out. So when we took out our first computers way back in 1977, there was a big hue and cry. Every union said that, hey, jobs are going to go away, computers are coming in. And really the most threatened people were middle management. And I give that example because it's similar to what AI is doing today. Now, what happened, if you look at what happened in computers, is initially there might have been some layoffs and stuff like that, or the equivalent of layoffs. But ultimately, if you knew how to use a computer, there were many more jobs created because all of a sudden there's a lot more data analysis and stuff that you could do, right? I somehow look at AI similarly. I think it's just another big phase in this whole technology industry. I mean, there's a lot of hype around it today, and AI is somewhat different because while computers are tools that you can use, AI does have some cognitive areas that come in. But my gut is that it's going to happen the same way. The trough might be larger in terms of there'll be more people laid off because people expect AI to deliver certain things. But the amount of data that can be analyzed by AI platforms, if you look at it, audio, video, everything can be analyzed now. So I think if people know how to use AI platforms, there will be more jobs created over the longer term. So when I look at IT services companies, because that's a specific question I think that you wanted to ask, I think most of them are smart enough to know how to navigate this. They've navigated a lot of other technology changes, which may not have had similar impact, but they've gone client server, etc., etc. I mean, I've gone through a number of cycles, relational databases, object-oriented, lots of things that have happened.
Sure.
And they've been able to navigate them. And I have a lot of confidence that a lot of these companies are really smart and they should be able to navigate them. What is nice is that you'll see some newer companies coming in my view, in niche areas where they're giving you solutions for agriculture, for logistics, for whatever. And if they come in quickly enough and have a good solution and have a growth mindset, they'll grow fairly large. And I think at some point, one of the big companies will probably have to either replicate that or acquire them to get that expertise in-house. But yeah, there are niches that are going to open up, which will give opportunity to a lot of people. But you've got to be like a data scientist with domain knowledge to be able to leverage that, and you've got to know AI. So it's a combination of a lot of things. So I think what most colleges should do right now is run some kind of AI. I don't know if you can teach people stuff, but prompt engineering is one thing that they can teach. Use different platforms, get people familiar with AI. That's how I think the future will go. Now, I could be completely wrong. If AI starts becoming more neural, becomes more cognitive, starts replacing intelligent people in some form, that prediction could change considerably. But I think that's a long way off right now. People are talking about it, but it's still many, many years away.
Yeah. But do you expect? So, for example, I think it was the Infosys CEO mentioned that they expect their revenue to not correlate with their headcount anymore, which to me sounded like a really strong statement coming in from Infosys that because effectively their product is their employees. So now if you're saying that my revenue can grow without increasing my headcount, that is a clear indication of that potentially they will not have to hire as many people to grow their revenue because of AI. So like, do you expect the number of jobs to sort of go down in IT? Like if you are looking at 2.75 lakh people sort of getting employed, do you expect that to change, or do you expect the type of job changing, or like what do you think about that?
So first thing is, when we started Headstrong, when we started 99, 90, end of 98, the plan was to look at where IT services is going to go in 10 years and set up a company that would focus on that. And so we thought the assumption you make is you have delivery expertise. So you're not worried about your quality of delivery.
Yeah.
So assuming that you have that, we thought that domain expertise would become critical. And that I no longer need to talk to the CIO, but I should talk to the business guy, discuss a business issue, and be agnostic to the technology I use to solve it.
Sure.
Right. That's what we did in Headstrong. And we focused on one segment. We focused on the capital markets, mainly investment banks, and built our domain expertise in that area. I think we were not, revenue was not directly proportionate to manpower. Our bill rates were much higher, et cetera, et cetera. And, my timing was wrong. It's 27 years since that happened. But I think that change is happening in the IT services industry today. It's the Accenture model in some ways, that you go in with domain expertise and then have a tail behind you to do the delivery, both BPO and IT services. And I think Salil Parekh, if he is the one the CEO at Infosys, he came out of EY. I remember meeting him in the Y2K time at EY. That's the way the market has to go. Now, will it impact jobs? Yes and no, but you'll have a lot more senior, more highly paid jobs. You'll have people who understand the domain, who can come in as consultants rather than just as programmers. You will still need programmers, but you will come in as... Now, the number of jobs is partly dependent on that, and partly dependent on how the world economy is going to grow. If the world economy is going to grow, there are going to be new companies, there's going to be more work. And so it's sort of a mix of both. But again, I think for the next year or two, you're going to see some kind of flattening in terms of hiring. And then I think you're going to see growth. And there are new areas coming in. Look at what's happening in healthcare, in genomics, bioinformatics. That whole area is going to explode. And then you've got quantum computing, people talking about it. Think about computers. Today's computers are deterministic. They give you 2 + 2 has to be 4. The quantum computing is more probabilistic. So it sort of is different. And when you program, you're going to have to think differently. And so that's a whole new area. And then around the corner is nanotechnology, which is again going to change the way our physics rules don't apply to nanoparticles. And so you're going to learn a new set of physics. And all of these are going to be technology dependent in some way, because technology is now the base infrastructure in which everything works. And so think of the jobs these would create. So I think the academic institutions have to also start adjusting, adapt to it. You can't start doing it after the jobs are needed. You have to sort of try and do it. And so, at least in the IITs, I think what the alumni are trying to do is trying to fund schools, centers, whatever you call them, that will somehow produce people who are going to be needed in the future. I mean, think of technology like digital twin, and think of what it's going to be able to do for you to simulate something instead of having to go through it physically. you can simulate what would happen as long as you have a digital twin and you work on that. So lots of very interesting technologies coming out that are going to demand expertise as well as people. And so I think everyone has to upskill themselves.
Yeah.
You don't want to run into the problem that the US has run into, where in the Midwest you've got a lot of people who did coal mining or whatever they did and have not kept up with digital technology. And right now, you can see the backlash of what that does to countries where you have a lot of people who just haven't kept up. And that's why the backlash against immigrants, because most immigrants who are coming in are technology savvy, most of them, I mean, not all. And it's going to happen and that's the nice thing about India. We train so many people, which is why today, most companies, if you go to their IT groups, you'll find some Indian at a senior position. Right. I mean, it's amazing today. Build those relationships become so much easier.
No, absolutely. So I think we do in the audience, we do have a lot of people from IT Kharagpur. We also have a lot of students from Coding Ninjas who might or might not be from IIT or best of the colleges. And I think one thing that I do understand by sort of spending so much time over the last 9-10 years with students is that it's super hard for academia to sort of keep up. And that's where the biggest problem is. At IITs, the good part is that at least the students, the professors are sort of still trying to sort of be on the edge of the technology, but it becomes super hard if you are not at one of these institutions. And there basically it becomes a really struggle. That's where people are sort of struggling to understand what should they focus on in learning, what should they do to sort of future-proof their career. And I think, as you said rightly, right, like I think the first place to start is, even if you don't know how to build in AI, you should at least know how to use AI to be more effective programmer, to be able to sort of, and like at Coding Ninjas in the last 6 months, I think all of our developers are just doing AI work. And I don't think anybody really understands the AI algorithms. That's the beauty of it right now, that it is democratized to a level that you can build really amazing applications, AI-based applications by using the API which are available, which are created by Google, OpenAI, and all these people, right? Like, and you are so as developers, as software engineers, I think the first thing we all of us need to do is to ensure that you are not scared of it. You need to learn how to use it really well and be more productive and be more effective at basically being able to build the right application. So I think that's something that everybody hopefully takes away. And I am really happy to hear from you that hopefully there'll be a lot more jobs, maybe of different types. We will have to upskill and sort of get to them, but hopefully there'll be more jobs than what we'll lose because of this. And I think this is a combination of the overall the world economy is not doing that great, plus this AI, and like what is happening because of world economy, what is happening due to AI is sort of getting mixed up as well, and everything is, I think the fear of AI is sort of getting bigger because of that as well. In a different cycle, maybe we would have sort of seen different interpretation from different people. So like as you mentioned, right, like one thing that I was trying to figure out is like you started a company which is an iconic company, then you sort of started another company, then you started another company, and like what keeps you going? Like how do you sort of keep at it, right? Like if, for example, if you ask me, the day coding has become as big as like what you were able to build, my feel right now is that I might not want to sort of go through the grind again and again, because it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of work. So like what keeps you going, and like how did you sort of do this?
So first thing is you've got to have a supportive family, because they are going to compromise. Your time goes away. They feel they need more time. I think my motivation is simple. As long as I can create jobs, I'll keep working. So, it's just a simple motivation. I think the biggest need in India today is creating jobs. And as long as I think I can contribute towards that, I will continue to work. Also, I'm not allowed to retire. My wife thinks I'm a disruptive influence at home. I keep interfering in everything, so I might use that energy outside home. Uh, but what happened is after we sold Headstrong to Genpact in 2011, I decided that I would sort of focus on technology startups that are largely in healthcare and education that would make a difference to the economically underprivileged in India. So, I thought I'd just use my expertise to help people grow in those areas where, they can grow the company, make money, whatever they need to do, but have a social impact that would make a difference. So at Magic, what we decided and our big focus, we do a lot of things, but our real expertise is in what we call accessibility, taking digital content and making it accessible to the learning handicapped. Excuse me. Now, India, the problem is we are still trying to educate our normal people. We haven't really got there. So the kids who have, things like autism, ADHD, visual, hearing, they are sort of sidelined. But what we do is adapt the digital content so that they can be part of the mainstream. The US is a big market because most school systems here, think about 20 odd percent, some number like that, need some help, special help. And so we work with the publishers to adapt their content for those people, for those school districts.
Yeah.
On healthcare, what we are trying to do is there's a shortage of doctors in India. So if you look at what the statistics are, because the economy is picking up fairly well, the percentage of people who are adding to who are coming into the healthcare system who can afford to pay a certain amount is going up by 12 to 18%, depending on how the economy goes. And it's a pretty large, on a large base, that's a large number. The doctors are only going up by 6% every year, right? Already we have a shortage of doctors because every doctor I know in India is overworked, even in the cities, so forget the villages. And unless, let's say, if I put in medical colleges today, doctors will come out 10 years later.
Yeah.
Right. I don't see, they're talking about the investment. I don't see that kind of investment in medical education going in today. So the shortage is only going to get worse. And you have at least 10 years, maybe a longer runway for that. So how can I use technology to help the doctor to reduce their non-patient facing time so that they can have more patient facing time and see more patients? And that's what we are focused on. And the second thing is, of course, to see how we can get, provide healthcare or doctor access to villages. So I've actually recently taken over or accepted the post of chairperson of the Indian Institute of Public Health in Delhi. And I'm also on the board of, through that, I'm also on the board of the Public Health Foundation of India. And, trying to see how we can make a difference in a small way. By the way, I don't know how many people know that there was a recent survey of public health institutes all over the world. And PHFI in India was ranked number 2, second only to London, but ahead of Harvard and Johns Hopkins in that area. And for an educational stroke research institution in India to be ranked number 2 in the world, it's something, we in the IITs, we fight to get to the top 100 in the rankings. Here we are number 2. I don't think we've been able to publicize it well enough to say.
This is very surprising to hear. Definitely we should do better at this. Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, I can see how this sort of keeps you motivated. Like so, as I mentioned, for me also, I was very clear that I have to be in education if I want to sort of work hard. Otherwise, it becomes very hard to sort of stay motivated and do something. So everybody in the audience will love to take questions from everybody. So I know I have been a little selfish in asking some questions which were my sort of need to ask. Maybe you guys will have something else that you would want to ask as well. So please feel free to add your questions, and I'll take them up with Sir. Yeah. So I think so few questions that we have right now are mostly around AI and what it's going to do to the jobs, whether we'll have enough jobs or not, as I expected. Right? So I think we have answered most of them. I'll just quickly summarize some of the things to sort of quickly answer this. So somebody's asking what the entry level engineer should do, as they don't have good experience and upskilling will take time. So I think that's the sad reality of our education system right now. Ideally, you should have upskilled during these 4 years of education, and when coming out of college, you should have felt that I have enough skills, I have done enough work through internships, through projects, that I am actually good enough to sort of get into the industry. So everybody who sort of feels that they are not there yet, sadly, I don't have any shortcut answer for you. What you need to do is you do have to spend some time, maybe spend the next 1 year upskilling yourself and sort of go through that grind of really putting in a lot more effort over the next 1 year, and hopefully you get to a place where you have the right skills to get a job. Do not fall under this perception of that freshers need to have experience, freshers need to have skills. Right? That skill you can only get through this grind of actually learning, building projects and doing a lot of work. Ideally, you should have done over the 4 years. Now, if you've not done that, you need to do it now. There is no shortcut. You will have to take time. Okay.
I'd like to add one thing to that.
Please.
You know, if you're looking for a career in the looking for something in the IT industry, just remember, you're committing to learning for life. You have to keep updated with whatever's going on. So you take a job and spend your time in the evenings catching up on upgrading yourself in terms of AI or whatever. But it's something you'll have to do. Even if you're good at AI, X years from now there'll be something new that'll come up, and you'll have to study to stay updated. So you can never, the day you think I don't need to learn anything, you might as well retire in this industry, because it's not going to, you're on a treadmill, you've got to keep running all the time. Yeah, it just, there's no let go. And things are changing much faster now than they were earlier. As an example, I remember when the first computer came home, my daughter was 3 years old, she's 51 now. My mother was there and she asked me, she said, in my lifetime, I've seen the television, I've seen the radio, I've seen the telephone, I've seen the television come home. Now I see a computer coming into the house. When my granddaughter is my age, what do you think will be in the home? And I told her, Mom, if I could predict that, I'd be writing books and making money, not running a company or not, But yeah, it's difficult to predict where technology will go. I mean, you'll find a lot of people saying things. Some of them are going to come right, some won't. But it is going to change. And it's going to go into lots of new areas. So you're committing yourself to a life of continuous learning. And just keep that in mind.
No, sir, absolutely makes sense. And when I'm discussing to different people in IT industry as well, right? I think my first guess or my first feel was that this is going to impact. If it's going to impact, it's going to impact the freshers, because that's the sort of job that potentially AI will become good at. But the response that I get from people who actually understand the industry well is it will actually impact first the mid-level and senior level people, because they will not learn. It's going to be much harder for them to upskill than the freshers. Freshers will still upskill and sort of get to the right places, but the mid-level and senior people, how do you move these people to actually learn and upskill? And the layoffs at TCS is exactly this. They are not impacting freshers, they are impacting mid-level and senior level people who are not ready to upskill. That's exactly the statement that TCS has given as well. That people who are not ready to upskill, we had to sort of let go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and which is one reason why there's so much angst about AI because a lot of CXOs don't know how it's going to impact them. So what people are doing is holding decisions because they don't know what the impact is. I mean, again, I'll go back to a little bit of history. I don't know how many people were around in 99, 2000 when the bubble, the e-commerce bubble, as we called it, came up and burst. In 99, 2000, people thought that brick and mortar companies in retail would die. They would not be around, and that e-commerce would take over everything. It's now 25 years later, brick and mortar is still around. I mean, there are obviously challenges for them. E-commerce is coming up, but they haven't died. They're still there. Some of them are still doing quite well. So things, how do I put it? Things don't change that quickly. As you rightly said, senior people don't quite understand the technology, don't really understand the impact it could have. Applications are not available. You already see some of that murmuring going on, that it's a lot of hype and nothing really is being delivered. It hasn't changed very much, etc., etc. It'll take time. Everything takes time. Because the people who understand the technology now have to understand the business before they can put a solution out there.
Sure.
Because the people who understand the business don't understand the technology. So it's very much like a data scientist. You may be very good at math and stat, but if you don't understand the business, how are you going to do intelligent analysis?
Sure. No, absolutely. So there is this question from Kushal. Kushal, I think this is a very question of this era, in the sense that so in our time, our issue used to be, how do I get somebody to give me advice, right? Like, how do I get somebody to, like, how do I get answers to my questions? What Kushal is saying is exactly opposite of that. There is so much noise. For every question, I have 10 answers. There is so much advice, so many questions, so many answers. It becomes very hard to focus and which source to trust, which source not to trust. So I would have something to add, but would love to hear from you first. Like, how do kids of this age, and it's true, right? Like so my kids are very small right now, but like my niece is in 12th grade, and I can see her struggling because there are just so much distraction, so much noise. How do you sort of trust which source to trust, and like how do you sort of go about?
Yeah, so ultimately, look, if you have 10 answers for a problem, in some environment, all of them are right, and in some environment, all of them are wrong. So it's not that any one is right or wrong. I think ultimately you have to go by your gut. I mean, if you're going to want to get into the world, whether you want to go to a job or you want to get to being an entrepreneur, you have to depend on your gut. You have to look at all these and then decide what answer or what risk to take. Every time you take a decision, you're taking a risk. I mean, if you're taking a decision with all the data out there, then you're not taking a decision. The data is telling you what to do. A decision has some level of risk. And there are certain areas where you are comfortable, so you take a bigger risk. There are certain areas where you're not comfortable, so you don't take a bigger risk, or you take a lower risk. And I think this is where, how should I put it, depending on friends or talking to friends, seeing what they think. But ultimately, it's your gut. You have to say, this is what I think is right, and go with it. If you're an entrepreneur in the early stages, then remember, you could be making wrong decisions. The quicker you realize that and change, the better off you are. That's why I always say entrepreneurs don't have egos, which goes contrary to people saying, hey, Larry Ellison has an ego, blah, etc., etc. But when you get to Larry Ellison's size and point, you can have an ego. But when you're doing a startup, you can't have an ego because you take so many decisions. A lot of them are wrong. You've got to admit you're wrong and get the team to move in a new direction. If you start sticking to your guns because you have an ego, you're in real trouble.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think absolutely, sir. Like I think that makes a lot of sense. Like from generally advice around career and for like what should we learn? Should we learn this? Should we learn that? At that, I generally recommend everybody to spend less time figuring out what to do and spend more time actually doing stuff. So you try and sort of find one person you can trust, right? Like find one influencer, find one mentor, find one friend, find one senior who you can trust, and just do what they are asking you to do, right? Like don't because now what I see with these most of these kids is that they will start doing something, then they will watch one influencer saying, oh, this is not the right way, you should do this. Cyber security is not the right thing, AI is the only thing. Oh, AI is just for a while, it's an hype, you should stick to this, right? So these kids tend to sort of like just keep revolving around these decisions, and they never make progress. So I think like on that, I just want to say that like just once you take a decision, it's actually far less painful or costly to stick to that, get to some level where you gain some knowledge, then you can take a answer for yourself whether you want to continue here or you want to take something else, you want to try something else. But please stick to it and sort of spend some time learning rather than just moving around.
So a common thing that happens, most people go through life not knowing what they want to do, trying to think of, hey, and so don't get too put off by that, because that's a very common thing. In fact, if you read a little bit, in your late 30s, early 40s, most people go through what is called a midlife crisis, where you suddenly tell yourself, hey, when I graduated out of college, I wanted to change the world, or some such thought. And now I'm 40 years old, and what have I done? I haven't really made a difference. And, for example, it happened to me in form. And, my wife and I wanted to change the world when we finished at college. And then you get stuck in a job and you're doing all sorts of things. And, so we sat and talked about it when we turned 40 and said, excuse me, and said, we haven't changed the world. What are we doing? And so then we decided, look, we can't change the world. That's too big a problem. But let's redefine our system boundary and say our world is the people we're in touch with, the guy who, our cook, our servant, our driver, whoever they are. And we can't change their life because they are about, they're in their 30s, 40s, whatever they are. But maybe we can change the lives of their children. And so we decided, let's educate their children the way we would educate our children, provided their children are willing to or want to get educated. And that has really been very satisfying and has made a real difference. For example, my driver's daughter finished at Shivnada University and became a business analyst with one of the companies in Gurgaon. And now she's being posted to Canada. And she and her husband are in Canada. Both of them are working.
This is amazing, sir. This is absolutely.
I had another. He had come to me and his nephews who got educated at the Delhi Public School and done BCom. They wanted a job. I got them as trainees in Headstrong at 5,000 rupees in accounts. The elder one became our accountant in London. The younger one went as an accountant in Chicago. So it's quite amazing what some of these people are capable of doing and how good they are in what they do. And so they just need to be given a chance. And you can see that today in cricket. You can see that in sports where we have gone deep and looked at people. It's amazing. In fact, as part of our CSR and Magic, we try and upgrade government schools. And so this particular school in Sector 12 in Noida, we had given them 10 digital classrooms. And I was talking to the principal. I'd gone for the inauguration. 800 students, one teacher for every 130 odd students. She gets 1 lakh a year from the government for other than salaries. And so, I was talking to her about the kids and she was telling us how they're doing. And she said one of the girls from their school has got into IIT Kharagpur. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, if you can, in that environment, if you can study and get to at that level, there must be a lot of kids there who are capable, are just not being given the chance. And that is true with India. We have a lot of very smart people who just don't have the opportunity. And the more we can get them that opportunity, the more really smart people we'll have.
Those are like, for example, at Coding Ninjas, like I get this strong feeling a lot of times that I am able to impact people who at least had the opportunity to go to college, right? But I'm not able to get to people who did not even have the opportunity to go to college, right? I personally believe I'm super lucky to be able to do whatever I'm able to do right now. But I think there is so much more that we could go if we go down, lower the age, right? These are absolutely amazing stories, of if somebody is a driver and their daughter is able to get to that level. I mean, that's absolutely life changing, not just for her, but for the generations, right? For everybody in the family.
Absolutely. It just changes the family, pulls them out of where they are into middle class and upper middle class.
Yeah. Perfect. So, we'll take a couple of more questions. I do see again a lot of questions on jobs, so I will still let's quickly take some. So Samarth here is in 4th year of BTech and is working on a lot of projects, doing unpaid internships, doing certification programs and courses which include AI in it. Can these help me to get a job as I need, which is a data analyst? Can I become a data analyst? Sure. So if you want to take it, you can take it. Otherwise, I can quickly sort of answer as well.
Jobs are going to come up. I mean, you had, after the pandemic, you had some slowdowns and stuff like that. But they're there. They're going to come back. I would think that in our time, at least, where you went for your summer training, invariably gave you an offer. And that's what you got to do. You got to try and impress those people. And having an offer in hand makes other people want to give you. It's very much like when you're trying to raise money. If you got one person to say they'll give you money, the rest fall in line because they think that person who said yes, if it's a credible organization, that they've done their due diligence, and so I don't have to do the due diligence anymore. So I would think, please try and impress the companies where you're going during training, and they are the ones who are likely to give you good recommendations and want you back when you've finished. Excuse me. So try and do that. Try and take your summer training somewhat seriously. Try and see how you can make a difference to them. The project you do, if it's visible to them and it gets up to their CXO, whoever is the senior person there, he'll want you back to be able to make him or her look good when, in their job. So that's one area you should keep in mind. The other thing you should do is, of course, just make sure your communication is good, because a lot of people tend to, that's what they see the first time they come in and talk to you or meet you. You may be the smartest technical person in the world, but if your communication is not at least acceptable, you're going to have a problem. And so try and get that done.
Yeah. No, sir, absolutely. And I think overall, the answer to most of these questions is very similar. That there is no shortcut. You need to upskill, and you need to upskill lifelong. That's the reality of the industry that you want to get into, and so that's just how it's going to be. So just keep upskilling. So sir, there is this question which I think is going to be interesting for us to answer. This is for both of us. So this is from Prakash. He's saying that can we discuss about each other's routine? What do you do for your physical self, for your mental self? How does your routine look like? So if you can just quickly answer that for us.
Yeah. So I try to do my steps every day. I try to do my walking. In my office, I keep the big printer far away. So if I ever need to print something, I have to walk, and I try and not print a whole lot of stuff at one time, but do one print at a time and go up and down. So I try and do I don't get to 10,000 steps very often, but I do get close to that. So that's one thing I do. I personally don't go to a gym, but I have done yoga irregularly. Should do that. When you get to my age, you start having knee problems and other issues. So you do some of those exercises to keep yourself a little more flexible. That's how I keep myself physically going. Mentally, I think any of you who've done yoga know something called shavasana, where you blank your mind for 5 minutes or so. I try and do that. That's one thing. And the second thing I try to do just before I go to sleep every day, I try to think of is there one good thing I've done today? Or is there something I've said to someone that I should not have said because I was upset and maybe I didn't mean what I said? And if I can identify that, then first thing I do next day is to try and apologize and mention to that person that I didn't really mean it the way, whether it's a family member or someone outside. So that keeps me, it at least keeps my mind sort of free. I also am somewhat of an agnostic, and so how do I put it? My belief in God, if you use that term, is that I don't go to temples. But I believe my thoughts and my actions have to portray my belief in my God. And so I try to follow that norm. It sort of, it sort of helps me. And I guess everyone's got to find their own solution on how to help themselves.
Perfect. So it was directed at both of us. I'll try to be very, very quickly. I'll be very brief. So I've been trying to be a little more healthier. I'm actually a little more healthier. I used to weigh 12 kg more a few years ago. I've been able to keep it lower. I still have a long way to go. I do have two kids. One is 6-year-old, one is 2.5-year-old. So then it is not a question of how to keep myself busy or what to think of my mental health. I think they take care of that. You can't think much, right? So my 6-year-old loves to do a little bit of math with me. That's something that I really like as well. So we spend like half an hour in the evening sort of doing that. That's actually a really good meditation for me, and that really sort of keeps us going as like for us to spend time together. Yeah. So let's quickly move. So there are a few questions around. I hope you do have time, right? Like, can we take like 5-10 more minutes? Perfect. So there are some questions around starting a company. Maybe let's start with this one. So Guntas wants to know, how do we know that an idea is worth pursuing in the context of starting a company?
So first of all, if you got to have a feel of the market, number one. So if idea is worth pursuing, if you think there's a market, you can talk to some potential customers and see if they are willing to pay for it. Just remember, people say they're willing to pay. When it actually comes to paying, sometimes that's not, they don't pay. Second thing is, I would suggest, normally ideas come in because you want to go into a niche market, right? Just remember, there's a 100% chance that when you go into it, you have to change direction in some form. So go into a large segment. Don't go into a very small segment where you don't have much maneuverability to change from the original idea, right? So, and have a passion for it. You've got, try and things like change the world. You're going to make a difference to people. You're going to make an impact. Try and have that feeling instead of just saying, hey, there's a niche, I think it's going to work. And try and find a team that will go in with you to get that done, whether you need it technically or you need it from a commercial point of view, so that you have multiple people who believe the same thing, right? And remember, there's a good probability that it won't work out. And don't get discouraged by that, because only 1 in 10 or some such number of startups actually survive to the next stage.
Yeah.
Right. And try and build a company. Don't build something for someone to acquire. If you get a good enough price, you might think of giving it up, but try and build an organization for the longer term. decisions have to be in terms of, long-term decisions, not short-term, because short-term decisions come to bite you if what you expect in the short term doesn't happen. And so, try and think a little more 10 years, 15 years, rather than 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, nothing happens in 2-3 years. That's something that I have heard in a way, like that's something that I've learned in a very, very hard way. Like it takes a lot of time. Yeah. Okay. Let's take one or two last questions. Sure. Sure, sir. So the recording will be available. This is for everybody to know. Sure. So, sir, there is a question from Shubham. Like, I know it'll be maybe hard for you to sort of think of something specific, but like looking back at your journey, what was the single most difficult decision you had to make? I don't know if it'll be easy for you to answer.
Well, single, it's very difficult to identify one, but I'll talk about one decision that was tough. So when we got successful in HCL, we decided we wanted to move into new areas, and we looked at electronic cash registers. The word electronic motivated us, so we decided to make a cash register. After we got into it, we realized that a large part of the cash register was mechanical. It wasn't really, there's very little that was electronic. And after struggling with it for a year or so, we ultimately sold that kind of division, if I use that term, to a company called Bradma, which was in mechanical cash registers. We just added electronics to their mechanical machine rather than trying to do them. We never really mastered the drawer opening automatically and all that stuff, because for us, mechanical was making cabinets for a computer, not really, doing complex mechanical design. And I remember seeing that as a failure. It's something we did push for a while that never worked out. People, how should I put it? People remember companies for their successes. No one even talks about things that didn't work for them. And there are lots of things that we did at HCL that didn't work. It's just that part of us was successful, so that covered it all up. And, but when you look back, those are some of the things that you look at your failures and you actually learn from them and decide what not to do in the future or how to do it differently.
Right. So there is one student from IIT Kharagpur who is in the mechanical department, and they are sort of thinking of how does AI change mechanical department? Is it relevant? Is it not relevant for them? And how should they look at it from their department point of view? Impact of AI.
Yeah, so, just give you a simple example. Take something like digital twins, right? You design a large machine, and mechanically you put the machine together. Now, in different situations, you want to look at how the machine's going to behave. Make a digital twin and simulate that whole thing, instead of actually going out and testing the machine physically. So those are some of the areas where AI is going to come in and help you in terms of how you're going to do it, what you're going to do. There'll be lots of other areas. I can talk about lots of simulations that AI can do for you that you're doing through a quote unquote a more painful process today. It will make it much simpler provided you got the model right. And so the key is what people talk of LLMs, large language models. You can build your own LLM. It may not be a large model, but it'll be a model based on which you can then do a lot of simulations, experiments, get a lot of answers in different areas. So you have to decide. Companies do that, for example. They build their own models and then use AI to test whatever hypothesis they have on those models. What ChatGPT did, for example, is looked at the public domain data that's available. Approximately 20% of the data is in the public domain. 80% is still inside companies that they don't share. So there's a lot of work to be done in companies that can leverage whatever they're doing. I'll give you an example. We are 18th August this year, we are starting the celebration, the 2-year celebration for the 75th year, the Platinum Jubilee of IIT Kharagpur and actually of the IIT system, which will happen in 2026. We're looking at various things that we want to do at IIT, and one of the things is to see if we can set up a center for medical research and excellence. And so the present director, who's very interested in that, had talked to me, and I just went to one of the publicly available databases, AI databases, and asked them which are the universities in the US that have done something like that, so we can have a model we can look at. And it gave me a list of 4 or 5 universities. And so now it's easy to structure your research center because you've got some models available. You see what you like in them and then put it together. So, that's how it makes life simple for everyone when you look at some of these. I think what ChatGPT has done is taken it out of the technical domain and made it retail, public. People, everyone can use it. You can use it to make speeches, write your emails, do whatever you like. And that's what's got AI into everyone's top of the mind. Otherwise, it's been there for a long time in a different way. Fuzzy logic, people looking at neural networks, stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think specifically for mechanical, I think one exciting part is that I believe AI will enable robotics to actually grow much faster as a field, because now I think as we make more and more progress in AI, robots and overall stuff that they are able to do potentially will become much more relevant. So hopefully we'll see a lot more companies coming out who are doing really well in that. That automatically opens up a lot of work for mechanical engineers, electronic engineers, software developers as well. I think that's one area where potentially AI will help mechanical engineers in terms of if that is of interest, an area that can be very, very exciting going forward. Perfect.
This wasn't just another session. It was a masterclass in vision, leadership, and building tech that changes the world. Sessions like this are part of what makes the Coding Ninjas 10x Club a unique community, connecting you with pioneers and ideas that can transform your career. If you are ready to be part of moments like these, click on the link in the description below to join Coding Ninjas today and unlock the full 10x Club experience.